we have some records in the archives of when the Bell Bomber plant, what is now, I guess, Lockheed, Georgia, was organized, and some records regarding the first bombers coming off the lines for this is World War II, of course. Yeah. So I would guess that must have been it, because this was, what, a couple of years after the war. Okay. And no one here except, I'm trying to think, did any of you know ever meet any of the original charter members? I'm trying to think if you ever talked to any of the charter members early in your experience in the. Of course, your father knew them, certainly. I'm just trying to think how far back your experience is.
I've heard my dad a number of times say that he worked there 47 years. Okay. I also know that he went there when he was a young fellow, about 17 years old. So he was born in 1871. He retired in 1937. So that makes it 45 years right there, or 47 years right there.
It'll be about 1890.
And that was 1890 that he went to this. He and all of his brothers were connected with the Southern Railroad, one way or the other.
Well, at the 50th anniversary, they went and got a fellow named Garrett. George will remember that. And he was a charterman. He was a, no, it wasn't D. Garrett. I can't remember his first name.
Was it Henry?
Henry Garrett.
Henry Garrett.
They brought him to the 50th convention in this held at the old Henry Grady Hotel.
He was probably the last of them.
I think he was. I believe he was the last of the living charter members. His name was Henry Garrett. I remember, I never met him, but I remember bringing him in.
What observations, if any, do you have after you've seen? How many of you have seen the film before? I guess Mr. Beecham, I think, had a few people. What sort of reaction do you have to this?
I think it's a very good piece of the history, this organization, and it's amazing to me how it's held up as well as it has.
Well, now this is actually a copy.
Yeah, but you had to have a pretty good piece to make that copy
from.
I think next time it's short, y'all kind of slow it down a little bit. A railroad man that'll walk that
That's a good observation.
You never did see Jack Miller when you're trying to get away from Tom Live.
That projector was running at sound speed, and I think that film was shot at silent speed, which is 16 frames.
Yeah.
This is 24 frames. It was a little bit fast, you know.
Yeah, about half.
What do you remember about 1924, 1925?
Just the baby,
I knew either. The Grand Lodge representatives come out to the old roundhouse and took pictures of that pit. And it had to be about 24, 25. You don't remember that?
Well, there are pictures existing at in 28, which would have been the 40th anniversary. I think one of them right in there in the offices, as a matter of fact, in 28. Then at 60 years, of course, was a pretty famous time, and that's when this picture was taken. And that's right before the pit was actually destroyed or filled in.
Well, I can tell you one thing I wished I could find out. We lived on Hendricks Avenue. When the old oil house burned, I would like to know where the old roundhouse is, on Windsor Street side, buried in the bank, the old oil house. Well, I was born in 1905, and this had to happen going from the time that I started school. This had to be about 19, oh, I don't know, before 1910. Must be 19, maybe 1908. My dad put me and my sister up. This was late at night. And that was about the biggest fire I've ever witnessed, because that entire oil house burned straight up. And what impressed me, of course, more than anything else, were the firemen cooling the horses, walking them up and down. And I would like to know just how young I was when that oil house burned. I was young enough, my dad picked me up and set me up on top of this little shed in the backyard.
I remember the old oil house. Well,
Do you remember when it burned?
no.
I'd like to know what year that was.
That thing was built back in the bank there.
Yeah.
It looked like a tunnel inside, you know.
It's like an entrance to a tunnel.
That's right.
Well, that thing went up in flames. Mostly flames.
Well, it was all intact and it was in use when I worked there, but this was way back before then. They must have rebuilt it
Yeah, it must have
after
been.
the fire.
They did rebuild it, yeah.
I never did know it burned though.
I'm sure we could find out through newspaper accounts, probably. It would have certainly been covered in the newspaper. Now, who has been the longest member of this lodge? I'm not sure who is still living, of course.
I don't, we've got a lot of 50-year members, and I don't remember.
Well, could those of you who are 50 years members stand? Would you mind? We have 3. There probably are others, I suppose, some of whom may not be feel up to coming out.
Why don't you let them,
Okay,
name
could you
themselves
identify yourselves for
in
the
the year they
tape, and-
joined the organization?
if you would?
For years, I was known as Little Doc Pittman. Then I had a brother 10 years younger than I come along, and he was Little Doc Pittman. As I say, my daddy worked out there at what I call South Shop. When that railroad, he started, I don't know how long after he started, but from memory, and from what I've heard him say, that railroad used to be the old East Tennessee.
East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia?
I don't know about Virginia, Georgia, but East Tennessee. Later
We
on,
called
they
the old
came.
ETV&G.
ETV&G,
That's right, that's what it was.
I
Well-
remember the old ETV&G people.
But I joined this local. Roy Chold was president of this lodge. And I was apprentice boy, along with 4 or 5, maybe 6 of us, was initiated May 31, 1923. And I left here and went to Naval Gun Factory in Washington, D.C. After I got totally disgusted and caught up with being laid off. When I went to this, I was laid off at the time. I went to the shop and asked Guy White, who was general foreman and one of the fairest men I've ever known. So was his son, Leslie. Sorry I can't say the same thing about his nephew. Guy White has told me, I'll give you a pass. I want to ask you a pass. Because, brother, listen, you couldn't steal a job in those days. You get a job today, you're laid off tomorrow, or the place goes out of business. I went to him and asked him for a pass. Sure, I get your pass. That's easy. But the first time we need you here, you'll quit that, come back, knowing we cannot assure you of permanent work as a tramp. Well, after I was up there for, I guess, 2 years, here comes a letter calling me back. I asked for a 90-day leave of absence. They granted it. While that was in effect, here comes another letter. This is when the railroad retirement law went into effect. Just previous to that. You must come back or give up your seniority. I was in the shop of about 300 men, a naval gun factory, the gun carriage shop. And my senior quarterman was off of the railroad in West Virginia. I didn't know at the time. He was old enough to be my daddy. I went to him and I told him, a fellow by the name of John Roth. And when he retired, immediately after World War II was over, no man has been given a bigger, grander send-off out of that Navy Yard than he was. I mean, he was that much thought of by the men working for him. But not so with the man just above him, the master. I went to Mr. Roth and told him that I'd received a letter from Atlanta Southern Railroad to give up my seniority or come back. I said, Mr. Roth, what do you think my chances are of staying here? He called me Pitt all the time. I said, well, Pitt, I tell you, 47 years or 48, 49 on now. Years ago, I got a lot of just like you, off of a railroad in West Virginia. And I told him then, he said, I took the attitude of just, might well just soon be laid off from the government as a railroad. So he says, I stayed here, and I'm still here today. There's a man that could almost, of course we were under civil service, but he could have a lot to do with who stays and who don't. That man was just as much as telling me, well, that song that this fellow sings on the Western program today, out of Nashville, take that job and shove it, I don't love working anymore. Well, he was just practically telling me that. Well, I took it. I mean, I stayed there, sent the Southern Railroad my regrets, and I stayed there 34 years. After being in Washington, D.C., after the war was over, they furloughed me to IAM, place I hadn't heard of, but 1 or 2 times previous to that. So 2 months, I think it was, or 3. But it lasted 4 years and 4 months. Then they closed that place up. There was about, I guess, 100 naval officers visited that plant one day. And little downtown Pocatello, Idaho, 28,000 people. And one of the nicest little towns a man could live in. You could do anything you wanted to do, as long as you didn't infringe on that other man. I mean, it was, anyway, this was an inspection team that come out, the naval officer. I stopped in from work one evening doing the things that George Beecham does. did do.
Hey, you know what I did.
I stopped in one meeting and drank a bottle of beer. That was naval officers, and you didn't do that? Okay. That, I was in a building at that time. All windows, sheet metal work, sheet metal over. I mean, when I went in that building, I was screaming. I took the regular badge off that I had, was in it to a Marine. He gave me another badge to wear in this particular building. After being in there for 3 or 4 months or so, screamed again to go in one little room. I signed papers, read papers, signed papers, held up my hand and swore, placed myself under a death penalty if I reveal anything for 10 years. Well, that's been almost about 31 years. But if I wanted to tell you what I was doing then, I couldn't have done it. I knew what the park looked like, the name of the park, and a naval, reason I brought this up, a naval officer questioned me while I was in there drinking this bottle of beer. Hey, you work in that little building so and so. I know what's going on over there. That's fine, you know, but I don't. I work in it. We had a proving ground out. Then they says, this was about in May, August, it's August. Then we were notified December 31st, this plant's in mothball. November, I was called personnel and asked, would you be interested in transferring to Indianapolis, Indiana? Not Indiana, 9 naval districts. Well, that could be Louisville, Kentucky, Indianapolis, Chicago. I said yes, signed a little enlarged postcard. Week later, I heard from them. Naval Avionics in Indianapolis, Indiana. If I had FBI file numbers, forward them there, that would hasten my security clearance. I went to personnel, went to the Marine Colonel in charge of security. I didn't have one, I had 5. He reaches over, gives an order to a Marine goes, opens a safe in the corner, pulls out a stack of papers, comes over. I said, you want me to mail these in? We'll send these papers. You can just write and tell them that papers on the way. It's a lot of fun when you leave Washington, D.C. and go to Idaho. Know nobody. It's a lot of fun when they shut it right down, would you be interested? Because I had then better than 15 years service, that's the reason they offered me a job in Indianapolis or in 9 Naval. Go there, you don't know anyone. And in government service, it's just like a railroad.
I believe you'd been better off if you stayed at line of diesel shop. You'd come on back.
No, I tell you. We saw the country. And you know, when I first went to Washington, D.C. Navy Yard, a gentleman approached me. I was over there 2 or 3 days. We have a union here in the yard. You ever considered joining the union? Well, I reached over in my toolbox and pulled out my bupa. I was a member of this lodge. Well, I transferred into into Columbia Lodge 174 in Washington, which was a Navy Yard unit. They sent word back to me through the shop steward when he brought me my book back. Where in the hell did you get that number? Now that's what the biggest lodge in London, well, we had, I'm told it was over, but I've got a book, a hand paperback book, with over 4,000 Machinist Union members in it from that lodge. It's been a long time since they've seen a number that small. But when myself, Walter Reinhold, and Harry Gorman joined this unit, previous to that, the Grand Lodge had sent down several numbers, old-timers numbers, users. Well, they told me they hadn't seen anything down as low as 12,000. But since they didn't know when. But my number's 12,236. Walt Reinhold was 237, and I imagine Harry Gorman was 238. But it pays you, and that is a place actually says, to hell with the union, and continue working on it. Not comfortable, because that yard was just about 80% of the road got up unionized. Electricians, everything else, powder mix. And brother, it helps when you go into the biggest equipment out on an 8-foot vertical boring mill, first job I got there. And there you can't pick up no oil can, start all in that machine. That don't help you know what to do. Here comes an old man over there, son, try this. Let's do this, do that. They're around there, they're looking at you. And so Clarence Robinson, a seaboard man from here. I boarded, had to go through his room when I first got there to get to my room at this boarding house. That was the most homesick man I ever seen in my life. Had another fellow from this lodge come up there. I won't call his name, but he, apprentice boy out there, well, a long time I was, he got in trouble with supervision. Because you go into a place like, what the reason I'm saying is, you go into a place like that, you don't express your ideas and opinions. You kind of hold back and feel yourself through. This boy did. And he got wise to them, and well, he was dissatisfied too, he come back. Man used to be secretary of this lodge. Chipman, Paul Chipman, he was up there. I'm sorry, not Paul Chipman.
Kelly.
Who?
Oh, Kelly.
Paul Kelly. Oh, Kelly. That was a young boy that had a mind of his own.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me.
Lived out in Niska Lake. Niska Lake.
You talking about Harold Tubbs?
No, not Harold. Is he still living?
No, he died here a few months
Harold
ago.
did?
Yeah.
Good. No, I worked with him out there long.
Guy somebody.
Lived in Niska Lake.
Niska Lake.
He was, oh well, I can't name. Anyway, belonging to this union sure as hell helps. Especially if you're a young fella, hitting it that way. Because that yard, you can say, of course you can go to work for the government, tell the union, I don't want to do, don't want no part of it. And get by, but you can get far like that another way. I don't know, I'll think of that guy. I've talked too damn much now, thank you.
Could you identify yourself for purposes?
I saw one of your 16-inch rifles, put it up in the Navy Yard, and up there the railroad runs down the street. And the streets have corners. This damn rifle was a diagonal across the corner with a car, 3 cars that was loaded on, went around the corner, the rifle fell over the street. But I've seen a lot of things up there. I pulled barriers for them. About a week and a half after I went in the yard, the foreman interviewed me when I first day I went in. Asked me if I knew anything about that, but I told him I did. I had quite a bit of experience, so from then on I was in the Baptist Party. That day I was in Georgia. And I put barriers on anything from the smallest to the biggest. Yeah. Battle wagon and all. I enjoyed it. I didn't get much machine work. Once in a while, night shift particularly, it would be short-handed and needed a job in a hurry. I could leave my help on the table to carry on. I could run over and do a job for it.
No, would you care to talk just a little bit about how you, your first days in the union and in the shop?
It's no, but I started serving apprenticeship in Birmingham, September 1927, and completed the apprenticeship. Got laid off pretty soon, and I had a chance to come to Atlanta in '36, so I transferred to Atlanta, came in Lodge number 1. I'd like to tell something about what my father told me. He went into the machinist organization, I believe, about 1902 or 3, and they had an unwritten code of ethics. If a member was garnishing for anything other than a doctor's bill, they had charges preferred against them in Lodge, and there was failed users from Lodge, lost the job. Of course, that time didn't have any insurance. The man got caught with a big doctor bill. They usually passed the hat and paid his doctor bill. They had to pay it. And another thing is strict about wearing union-made clothing in the shop. So if found somebody that working the clothes didn't have a union label on it, they get around and take a knife and cut the clothes off.
That'd be sad today with all this home call.
But I came over here in '36 and I've had regular employment up to the time I retired, except for about 4 or 5 weeks. I was furloughed pretty soon after I came over here.
I think one other person stood up. Could you identify yourself, and do you have any observations on at least the early days or anything else?
Yes, I'm Homer Entwistle. I went to work at Southern Railroad in 10 to 22, first day. I worked 9 months on what we used to call a transfer cable. Bring an old steam engine into this platform, and it looked like streetcar wheels on it. And it had a streetcar controlled motor on it. And it run up and down the track. run the old dead engine in on one end of it and push it on with a hostler engine. And then I would take it up to whatever pit they wanted to take it. It had a big cable in the middle of this platform on wheels. You had to pull the cable clear to the other end of the pit, hook it onto a pulley, bring it back, hitch it onto the engine, and you start it up with a little control. You had a gear there that made it go this way, and then the other part of it went up and down the tracks, going out of gear. And I stayed on that 9 months and started on my apprenticeship. The people, when I first went to work there, we were just a big family of people. Everybody knew everybody, and knew wives and daughters, and all the children, where he lived, how much money he had in the bank, and everything. Just one big happy family. There wasn't any cutthroat business at all. They played a lot of jokes on each other and all like that, but it was always fun. I enjoyed every minute of my 50 years. And I was always proud that I belonged to the Mother Lord, number one.
Some of you I know are probably pretty close. What about, 40, 45 years? Do we have a group of people that are approaching that 50-year figure? I'm sure there must be some others. George, do you have are there any observations that occur to you before the group?
Doctor, I think we all owe you and the officers of this lodge a debt of gratitude first for bringing these things here and inviting us to come up. I've enjoyed mostly meeting with some of my old friends here this afternoon that I hadn't seen in a long time. And as the baby said, we were, I guess, closer together in those days. I think if anything has been said here this afternoon that reflects the true spirit of this union, allow me to say first that this wasn't the first effort that Tom Talbot had made to establish a machinist union. He had made 2 efforts before, and it failed in both of them because I would presume of what we seen in the film that they were caught up with, and in those days it simply didn't go. And where he originated and where he now lies buried, of course in Florence, North Carolina, it wasn't easy to hide yourself, I'm sure, as it would have been or it was when he got down here to Atlanta. And this union, as I believe you or someone else said, was not founded solely for the purpose of raising the rates of pay, as necessary as that was and as much a part of the founder's dreams as that was. If you read his first speech made over at the DeGee's Opera House here in Atlanta at the first convention of this union after it had been established for about a year, and 20 local lodges, I believe, had been set up all around the country, you'll find that Tom Talbot leads off by saying that one of the prime movers in the minds of the founders of this union was to eliminate the people from the trade who were not machinists. Their dream and their idea was to establish a group of people known as mechanical engineers in those days who were fit and qualified to demand or request and then demand wages worthy of what they were able to produce and receive those wages, and then in receiving the wage it would follow that the families would benefit. So that was one of the dreams. Now if anything's been said here, and this is what I fully intended to say this afternoon, talking strictly about number 1 lodge, that was correct. Brother Buckner has expressed it, that he and I and some of the rest, the doctor and most all of you brothers in our bracket knew when we came into this union. Prior to 1945, when the division was made and District 46 was set up in Atlanta, made up of what was then 3 lodges. But we were, or this lodge was, one of the prime movers in civic affairs in this man, in the state and county and city, as he has said. The officers of this lodge were almost all involved politically. And I came in the lodge, and Brother Button and I came in the same year, by the way. Most of them didn't work the trade at all. They had graduated out into other jobs. And it was just as true what he said, that it was impossible to get in trouble just about, short of murder in this town, and not get out if you were a member of number one lodge. Because somewhere where you would meet this judgment, you will also meet a member of number one lodge. And he knew who you were, and you knew, of course, who he was. And let us not pass the evening away without paying some tribute to Brother Pug King, who was a long-time business agent, and was a man who could really get you out of these little scrapes. I well remember this little something on myself, although Brother Pittman here vilified me already, saying I partake of the vile stuff, maybe after a hard day of work. Anyway, I did get in a little something in this town one time that didn't reflect the greatest of honor on my character, and of course the first man I came to see was Pug King. He being our business agent and our go-between with politicians. So Pug was a little bit rough, but he said, I'll go with you. I'll do that anyway and get you in the courthouse door. And unbeknown to me, of course, Pug had arranged things, and when I got down there, Pug told the judge, said, I'll try this case. And as I stand and breathe, the judge got up and excused himself and went to take a leak or somewhere. And Pug tried it. You can imagine a scene like that with people sitting out in the courtroom waiting to get up there themselves who didn't know what was going on. They're right embarrassing. And I don't know, that may be the one thing, and I never forgave Pug for it. Anyway, that was the way things were handled, and this lodge and the officers and members were prime movers. And we voted as a unit. Now come the time that I don't know whether we do or not. I wish I could say we did. But we were in that spirit of accord, and of course things have changed. And it's been a natural change. I think we're just as good now. We people who are left around, and our younger brothers, they're just as good human men as we were. They're just under a different set of circumstances. We didn't have television. We didn't have anything to do except come to lodge every Thursday night. And we came and fussed and fought and argued and loved each other as brothers should. And then we left with this one accord, and that made this union great, Doctor. And they'll say that our greatest hope is and expectation is that our younger brothers who are coming on is going to keep it that way.
I want to mention one name here tonight. A name that should be mentioned and remembered as far back as I can go. That's Grover Whitmore.
Business agent.
I don't know how many of you know him. He was in the naval gun factory also in Washington during the war. I suppose Grover's passed away by now. But there's one thing that I also want to mention. I went to work on my apprenticeship October 6th, 1922. Just previous to that, while the strike was on. George, I don't know if you remember this or not. You know that Fortress Avenue Railroad crossing there. That was a headquarters for the picket duty. That's at the crossing. I saw one afternoon, just about dark. I suppose there was 75 or 100 scabs fell off a freight train. I reckon that's what I understand. To walk on up into the shop. There was about 30 or more men here on the picket line. They went out and greeted those fellows right on the railroad crossing.
And what I saw go on for about 4 or 5 minutes at the most. I'll remember that long as I live. Those fellows did not go on into the shop. They went back towards Emerson Cross, south. They meant business in those days. And I contributed after I went to work as apprentice boy. I forget now what it was, quarter a payday or something. The men paid the salaries of 2 fellows that were in prison. 2 of the brothers were in serving time for engaging strikers, strike breakers. Homer, do you remember the name of those 2 fellows? I can't recall their name now.
Bob Bogart is one. He
Bogart, that's right.
President of this lodge.
But their
In the
family
30s.
received their salary the whole time they were in the job. But they meant business. Do we appreciate that today, what they did? Do we? Well, I do. And nobody pounded the streets of the city of Atlanta any more than I did. And they talk about the Depression happening in 1929 when the stock market crashed. That thing started in 26. I'm told, that's when I got laid off first, and I'm told, or was told, that all railroads throughout the country curtailed forces in 1926 during the summer. But do we appreciate what those old timers did then?
You got to, or you wouldn't have what you have today.
If it wasn't for them,
That's exactly
that's right.
He was not the one of them.
Osler was one.
I heard a
Hope wearing a wig and a dress. Dress. Dr. P.I.
I'd like to say
Yes,
a word. My name
please.
is Newt Buckner. I joined the same year that George Beecham did. And just one thing I'd like to bring out here is that the reason for the unity in the shop and in the lodge was that there were very few automobiles. Most of the employees with the Southern Railway, where this lodge was organized, lived within walking distance of the shop. When I went to work there, I doubt if there's a half a dozen people there on the order. Walt Hill had been sitting here trying to think he was one of the few who was a foreman at old Hudson. I can't remember nobody else. Now White didn't have no car, he walked to work. He was a young foreman. And that brought the people close. They were neighbors. Now, one will live 50 miles south, another 50 miles north, and they're 100 miles apart. They go to different churches, seldom come to lodge, but if he's a true member of the machinist organization, he believes in his organization and will stand up.
I heard a speaker this week that talked along these lines and went something like this. I can't tell it near as good as this speaker did, but he said something about there are so many union members now that meet in union halls they never built and enjoy the benefits they never negotiated for and the wages they never negotiated for. And if we begin forgetting what these early pioneers did, who built the union halls and negotiated those benefits and wages and working conditions and so on that we appreciate and that we enjoy, that the union movement will not survive. So I guess that's what the earlier speakers were referring to, is that we must remember. That's one reason, of course, I'm so interested in labor history and getting the message out, because too often it is forgotten. But it's obvious in this local that there are many that do not forget it and have an appreciation for it. I don't mean to cut anyone off. Is there anyone else who would like to make an observation? I'm almost out of tape, but that doesn't mean we can't go on until you are satisfied.
but even the enemies of labor today gives labor the credit for the standard of living in this country. We would not have been where we at today if it hadn't been for organized labor and craftsmen.
Well, it is curious, many of the politicians now seem around election day to change their tune about the contributions of the labor movement. I won't name any names, but I think you can draw your own conclusions that they seem to suddenly see more virtue in the labor movement around election day than they saw a few months or a few years before. They saw much less virtue there previously. Other observations?
Let me say one other thing in
Sure.
regards to a man. Let us all, not that he was a Democrat, if he was a Republican or anything else, I'm talking about the man. The heck with his party. But labor in this country, and buddy, I was right there in the thick of it, pounding these streets. Don't forget Franklin Delano Roosevelt. You got things on the book today, they would have put you in a line of pen for doing it. It's legal. But it's, you would appreciate it. When he passed those laws, Wagner Labor Act and such, collective bargaining law, it wasn't thought of. Democrat or Republican, no matter. Not a difference. I'm retired on the civil service. And I'm not telling you to vote Republican, because I can remember Republican myself. I remember Herbert. But I will have to say this. We've had some good Republicans. You got the United States Civil Service laws today. Republican administration gave it to the people, the employees. They gave them most of everything. But talking about Georgia, little episode, let me tell you something else. Here's a young little apprentice boy. Look, I've had some experience around. Young apprentice boy, thought I knew everything. Well, when you're around 16 years old, 17, you think you know a hell of a lot. My dad, I had a Model T Ford. I tore it up, wore it out, run the square dance at all the Forest Park, Clayton County. Teenagers today didn't invent or discover sex. They think they did. Okay. I was going home one evening from the shop, crossed Henderson Crossing, went up to that Jonesboro Road and McDonald Road intersection. I turned to the right to go out Jonesboro Road. There was Reagan McLean, beautiful policeman riding motorcycle outfit, carnation in the lapel, flagging me down. A day or two before that, Judge Calloway had a brother that was hit with as he got off a streetcar somewhere in the line. Hit and run. Judge Calloway was saying he's going to roll the boom on these reckless drivers. I got a ticket. This police officer, Reagan McLean, he didn't see that Atlanta Milling Company truck to rear end swing that I got out of the way of. He saw me. Okay, give me a ticket, reckless driving. I had to go up before Judge Calloway. But before I did, I spoke to a fellow who mentioned it out at the shop. The fellow said, "You're going before Judge Calloway?" I said, "Yeah." Go over there and see Frank Calloway. Shopmate. Man old enough to be my dad at the time. Alderman of the great Fifth Ward along Stewart Avenue. I went over, he says, "That's Judge's brother. Go talk to him." I went up and asked Mr. Calloway, "Are you related to Judge Calloway?" He smiled, looked at me, and says, "Wow, what have you got into?" I showed him, told him, "Well, let me call my brother tonight. I'll talk to him." Next day he told me, "My brother wants you to come over on Stewart Avenue at his home tonight and see him." I went over there and he asked me exactly his brother. Took me in the parlor before the fireplace. Said, "What happened?" I told him. "Well, I can't make a decision yet. I'll have to get this in court. You tell the judge exactly what you told me." I did. The next day told him. The judge says, 25 in cost of 30 days. Always a minute. But since my brother tells me that you're apprentice boy at the Southern Railroad shop, you work regular, you haven't been in any trouble, I'm suspending this sentence. Son, I don't want to see you up here no more. That day before I went to see that judge, I stopped at a money shark down here, old Fred Hanna's old place, borrowed $25. I didn't have $25. My daddy worked right out there also. I found out later. He knew about it, knew what was going on all the time. But he thought he'd let me swallow like. I tell you, these daddies, they got a way of working things. I wasn't about to spend the night in jail. My dad knew all about it, but I didn't know it. I tell you, some daddies, some of these boys we've got today, young fellas, should be raised by a dad like I got. My dad didn't take a drink of liquor. He didn't come hell or high water. But I never saw him deprive his family for one thing. Never saw him intoxicated. But getting all back to the same thing. Union made it all. And unison, that's strength. Your money tells you that. Thank you, brother.
I don't know about you, but I've enjoyed this. This is sort of like a prayer meeting for unions, I guess, or whatever the equivalent is.
Dr. Huff,
Yeah.
I see a document on the wall up at Mark House concerning these guys donating so much money for the guys that are in prison. Do you have that framed on the wall?
Well, it was on the wall. The only reason we don't frame and display everything we have up there is it fades it. Yes, we do have such a document. And, well, you know, another illustration right here in Atlanta, it doesn't directly affect the machinists, but Gene Debs, who was a famous union leader of a bygone era, a little bit before any of our times, was in the Atlanta Penitentiary over here. Good union man, but put in there basically because he spoke his mind as a good union man, and ran for president while in the federal penitentiary over here, and got over 1 million votes, which is more than any minor party candidate had ever gotten up to that time.
Eugene Debs.
Eugene Debs. And never a greater patriot or union man ever heard of, but thrown in prison for speaking his mind. So it is amazing that the history that we have of the labor movement right here in this city. We've had a series now of 2 different tours of labor sites. If the local would ever be interested in such a thing, where we'd get a bus together and get some of the members and look at some of these sites. Of course, all of you have seen the Pegram Shop site, but there are a number of other sites of interest here in the city. The first sit-down strikes, for example, in the country were not in Detroit or Flint, Michigan or something, but right here in Atlanta.
I went to see fellas on sit-down strike at Fisher Body and Chevrolet plant right out there.
Lakewood, yeah.
Lived in the same boarding house with them.
Mhm.
Just sitting out there in the shop, wouldn't get out.
So much of labor history, not just of Lodge 1, but of many unions, is right here in Atlanta, and that's, of course, what we work to preserve. A final note, I guess I can turn this off. I don't need
grip that I never have forgot. We went to Washington and presented that old original charter to the Grand Lodge. And we tussled around, you know, in the hotel room. Otis Hunt and I, we had some pretty heavy tussles up there. And what scared the living hell out of me is 6 months later, Otis Hunt died. And the thought run through my mind, what if he died while we were tussling?
What is your definition of tussling? Was y'all tussling with each other, or tussling with two women, or tussling with one? What are we talking about tussling?
Don't take some noses, man.
No comment. No comment. Well, I know you have another speaker coming up shortly, so I'm
Hey,
going
Buck,
to step aside.
don't run off.
To the left.
Everybody be sure and sign this paper up here we got, so we'll have a record of everybody. And
I don't remember now why I stopped there, but I stopped. And there was a fellow, a little bit loud now, not like you. No one in this place can spell my name. I spoke up and says, what is it, your name? Beecham. Now this is out in Pocatello, Idaho. I said, I'd like to try it. Do you spell it B-A-U-C-H-A-M-P? You're the only so-and-so and so-and-so and so that's ever spell that name right. I said, well, I used to know a family of Beecham in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't remember if he told me he was from Atlanta.
Yeah, we're all kinfolk.
He says, that's, and I says, were you related to John Beecham? You do, I knew his entire family. His Uncle John, Uncle you told me. Now that's how small this world is. His daddy was one of the finest men I've ever known. I saw him when I was, this was a long time I was in prison. His daddy worked the brake rigging job in the back shop, wrecking shop. They would pick a locomotive up, set it down on timbers about 15-inch square, reach across the pit and have about 3 foot on each side. They had to move one of them timbers. And 2 or 3 on one end, his daddy grabbed the other end, said, let's take this out. I mean, he used up, took it, lifted it. Of course, he wasn't any more good for a while because he took everything in him out. But he picked that timber up. John Beecham was one of the most respected men I knew at that shop. And you should be proud of it.
Thank you, Doc.
Let's get everybody back.